This is the Women Your Mother Warned You About podcast, sponsored by Sales Gravy. I'm Gina Tremarco, Master Sales Trainer and Director of Coaching Programs at Sales Gravy. Before we get started with this week's episode, I want you to go and check out Sales Gravy University. Sales Gravy University is the place where sales professionals and sales leaders from across the globe go to learn and upscale. And right now, if you're a brand new user and you've never used Sales Gravy University before, you can get your first course for free by using coupon code free course when you go to learn.salesgravy.com. That's coupon code free course when you go to learn.salesgravy.com. And hey, I've got several courses there that you can check out. So I hope to see you there. But let's go ahead and get started with this week's episode. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started.
Let's get this party started.
Let's get this party started. How's that song go?
I don't think you have that in the USA, but it's an English song, and
It is?
I'm coming up, so you better get this party started.
Yes, it's why do you say that doesn't? What is it? Is that song from the UK?
Do you not know that song?
I'm coming up, so you better get this party started.
It's Pink. You know Pink. She's American, actually, is she not? So
Yes, she is.
So yeah, sorry, you own that song. You take that song back. But I thought it was
Let's get this You know what? You know what I just realized?
What did you realize?
That's the song that our video needs. Coming up.
Nerves.
We should use that. That is our song for Outbound. Yes.
I am up there. I better start practicing my little shimmy shimmy and my little twirl.
Where are you going to shimmy? Oh, gosh. Hey, I'm going to get the show started. Warners, welcome to another episode of The Women Your Mother Warned You About. I'm Gina Tremarco, Master Sales Trainer at Sales Gravy.
And I am Susanna Gray Jones, also Master Coach at Sales Gravy and recruitment business owner, mother, wife, whatever you want to call me.
Oh, gosh, stop
Slave
it.
to Gina.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite. Outbound's coming up, and I think that's a really cool song for our entry onto the stage.
Oh, yes, that entry is going to be the entry that is going to make everyone look up and take notice.
Oh, gosh.
Sorry, the English girl's a bit hyperactive today. I don't know what it is.
We are recording this show on a Friday afternoon, which is your Friday evening. And I know you got a date to go on with your husband.
Not a date, just seeing some friends. So yeah, you make it sound more exciting than it is, but it's... I'm a newlywed. I like to talk about going on a date with my husband. So there's that. When's your next date? Come on then. I know I'm not allowed to talk too much banter. What is your ideal dream date, Gina Tremarco? If a guy was going to woo you, where would they take you?
Oh gosh. There's no ideal. I don't know. I mean, I've got the ideal man, and we had a really great date night last night on a Thursday, and we just went to dinner and we played silly games at dinner. We played one of this it's like you ask questions about each other. It's kind of like, and there was a would you rather question in there. It was like, would you rather? I got to go find it. So it was kind of like the dating game that you did for us. And we did that with each other at dinner, and it was so funny. And we laughed so hard. I almost peed my pants because we were laughing so hard at dinner. So I don't know that.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And I love those types of games because what they do is they essentially expose the blind spot. Don't you think it's the same as sales? Bringing it back to sales. Yeah. So like, for example, there's this app. I can't remember what it's called. It's called Same or something, or Relate. I don't know what it is. But it asks you questions of what your husband or significant other thinks So you have to guess what they think, and then they say what they think, and then are we aligned? And how many times with clients do people think that they've got a safe account and that they are completely aligned, and they have no idea that they are off with someone else?
Ooh, yeah.
Yes.
Why is that? How did that happen?
What happened? Do you want to talk about my marriage or the accounts?
No, the accounts. The accounts. So, you're teeing us up for today's episode.
I am totally ruling the episode, hijacked again. Yeah, I mean, I think about this a lot. I think, you spoke about dating. I think relationships and building relationships. People often think that once you've got the deal, then it's over, right? It's very easy for salespeople to be starters. They say you're either a starter or a finisher. And a lot of salespeople tend to be starters, especially if they like the cold calling side and they like the prospecting. They start things off and then they're like, I've got them in the bag, on to the next, that they forget to nurture their relationship. Mm-hmm. And some marriages are like that too. Not yours, not mine, but some marriages are.
They get started and they don't put any more work into it, right? So no matter what kind of relationship it is, that's sort of interesting. Like, why are there starters and finishers? And I think you would agree that there are people who are also starters and finishers. Yes?
I do, because as I told you previously, I don't like to put anyone in a box or generalize them. And also, I think it's all situational, right? Because you might be in one job and you might just love starting, and in another job and you might just be like, oh, I love the detail here. You can't put it in one box. But I think people do tend to favor or get excited or want the buzz of starting something up. And the reason, obviously, because I'm a massive narcissist, I'm actually talking about this because I feel like this. I get excited by the new deals, and I've had to learn to think about my retention a bit more. And I always said to people in recruitment, it's never a loyal client until you've made a few placements. Don't think they're your client or a current client until you've made a few placements there, because it's the same with sales, right? And deals.
Where do you think you're the strongest in the whole process?
Starting. I was the same with men. Before I met my husband. Jobs, I would be hopping jobs at the beginning. I would be dating different men, and I would be starting new deals and then moving on to the next one, to the point, and you see this in lots of companies, they get the business developer to just start the accounts, bring on the business, and then they hand it to account managers, which is a popular model now. And you've probably seen it as well.
I have a lot of clients that I work with like that.
What do you think of that model? Do you think it works? Business develop, you bring on account, hand it to an account manager?
I think it works, and I think it doesn't work. I think that too is situational, depending on the client and the organization. Whether we're talking about sales or anything in business, the common denominator that I see that is always a problem is the communication piece. Everybody complains about it, and it is a big piece of it. So if your communication is not stellar in the organization, this is where I see the failure happening. And I've definitely worked with clients where I'm working with both, and I'm working with them cumulatively as a group, and I'm trying to get them all on the same page. And I usually convince clients, like, let's get them all in the same training. And I get some pushback sometimes. I'm like, you don't understand. I don't do the same thing as he does because I'm just the one setting the appointments. And this was this happened recently where I was just trying to get them all aligned on their because statements. And one of them really pushed back on me and said, no, I just set the appointment. So it doesn't matter what I'm doing versus what the person having the appointment does. And I'm like, your message matters. Like, you guys should all be aligned with the same value proposition. That matters.
Yeah.
And we all need to get aligned with that.
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah.
I think it can work really well. I think it does work if everybody's on the same page.
Yes. And I think so, for example, some organizations, you could describe something like sales gravy, where someone might sell you something and then they get passed over to a trainer or something, but they've still got that contact. That's probably a bit different because you've still got that contact who sold it to you in the first place. Whereas some organizations, you're basically saying, I think, that if someone sells you something and then it's handed over to someone else, that people don't buy the person. they buy the product. I think there's the potential for a misalignment of message there. And I think the companies that do it well, they manage that handover very delicately.
Yeah. So go back to what you just said. People buy you. So people bought that person initially.
Yeah.
Well, you said people buy the product, not you. Was that what you said?
No, I believe that people buy people, right? That's what we train. You essentially buy that person. Do I like you? Do I trust you? All those things. I think that if you do hand it over too quickly, then that journey's lost. You kind of got to that point. You have that handover is what's crucial. So if you are just getting someone to bring on the accounts and then you're handing it over, you need to manage that process of handover so carefully.
It really is an interesting kind of relationship. You're deepening and building the relationship. So if I think about some of the things that we do at Sales Gravy, right? We have a sales manager, Brooke, who's amazing. And all of the trainers we train and sell, right? So, so I a lot of times when I'm working with clients, I try to relate to them in this way. I said, listen, I get where you guys are coming from. While I'm selling, I'm also training. And so in a way, I see myself in some ways as an account manager, because once, let's just say Brooke sold it and now I'm training it. It's Brooke's to begin with, and it was her relationship to begin with. But I get to deepen the relationship when I take over and do the training. And so we get a much closer relationship. So it's kind of like if you think about, I don't know, I always put things in dating analogies. You start dating and then you're like, okay, this is fun, but you're also going to date Gina too. And then now you're dating Brooke and Gina, and but the clients but they're spending way more time with Gina. And so obviously the relationship will get deeper that way because we're spending more time together.
Yes.
And then that other person is not involved anymore. So it depends on how the organization has set it up. If it's been set up in a way of I got it started and handed off, then that's a very simple transition to work on if it's done right. Now, our case is a little bit different. So if it's Brooke's client and I'm working with them and then they reveal to me that they want to work with me more, I go back to Brooke and say, hey, they want more Gina. And then we work it together, right? But we work it together no matter what, right? We do a lot of calls together, and we create that relationship. So you have to develop, I think, a really good relationship internally between those two divisions so that there is constant alignment, constant communication. Everyone's in the know. I'm getting on a call after this with Brooke and a prospect that we're working with. It's our second discovery call. It's a really big, it's a complex sale. And so it's going to take a while, but because it's so detailed, and I ran the last discovery call, I've already realigned with her today to say, hey, let's get our ducks in a row before we get on this next call. Here are all my discovery notes from the last time we got together with them. Let's talk about that. So there's a constant communication between the two of us.
Yeah, I know that account. They actually emailed me saying they want more Susanna.
They're not an account. Yeah. Back off, account stealer. Yeah. I mean, account stealing, that happens too.
So, and also this is something because I'm a big, since we are talking about dating as well. And in the UK, we have something called Made in Chelsea, which is they went to America, right? So they were dating over here. The English people, we got to follow their real life. It's like a kind of Big Brother. Who are they dating now, but kind of half acted. When they went to New York, they were quite shocked at how the Americans were dating, multiple dating. So in the UK, it was like, I'm dating you, Gina, and I'm only dating you. But in America, apparently what happens is that, yes, I'm dating you, Gina, but I'm also dating Sarah. I'm also dating Jessica at the same time. So on Monday, I have Jessica. On Tuesday, I have Gina. Wednesday, I have Susanna. Is that true? Is that what happens in the USA?
In dating or in sales? Which one are you?
We start with dating, and then I'm going to tell you what I think about sales.
I think a lot of that does go on. That doesn't go on everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, it does. I mean, it does go on. When I was on the dating scene, I was dating multiple. I mean, I was dating. That's what dating is. You're dating, and then you turn it into, you make a decision on if you're going to make it an exclusive relationship. So I've definitely been in those scenarios where you date until you find the person that you want to spend more time with.
Yeah, see, maybe we make too many assumptions over here in the UK that if you're dating me, you're only dating me. And it's something that's kind of that unspoken.
Well, I was going to say, let's bring this back to communication. You said we're making that assumption. And I will say that when David and I started dating, we identified it, and we identified it really quickly, but I had been dating and it was exhausting, and there was that mentality, and I don't know if it's an American thing, but it's like nobody really wanted a committed relationship. They all wanted to date because they wanted to see who else they could date, and it was that kind of, I'm like, is this really what it's like out here? Because I had been married for 19 years and had no idea what was out there. And but then David and I started dating, and we always had a really good communication between us from day one. Everything was always out in the open, up front. Let's be honest with each other. And I think it came from our past of not having that. And pretty quickly, I'm like, I don't know how it got asked, but somehow it came down to him saying, I don't want you dating anybody else. I was like, okay. So I was we had the conversation. So the assumption did not have to be there. So let's bring that back to sales.
And I've got something to say about that, because now I'm a business owner. I deal with quite a lot of different things like job boards and advertising and things like that. And sometimes, as anyone has, when someone's trying to sell you something and you get on well with them, you always have that little tinkling thought at the back of your mind, do we actually get on well, or are you actually just trying to sell to me? There's always that kind of uncertainty, right? And that always keeps the gap a bit wider than maybe it should be, especially in recruitment, because you're like, I had someone today saying, oh, I might get a counter offer for my current job. And I'm so tempted to say, yes, you will, and you will not take it. But instead I'm like, yes, that's interesting. So how do you think you'll feel about that? So you're always kind of, you're selling, but you're not trying to look like you're selling. And you have that relationship, but you want that relationship to seem as genuine as possible. So I'm thinking of an example. I'll tell you where I'm going with this. I'm thinking of an example of someone who sold me advertising, and we had good banter. I thought he was awesome. And then he handed me over to my account manager, and I was like, oh, I miss him now. I just sent him an email like, hey, thanks. How are you? You know, no reply. And I felt deceived. And my whole experience of this client's customer service was just, I just felt like, don't know if I feel like I've been cheated on now. And I wonder in business, how many people do that and how many other people feel like that. But I didn't feel it badly enough to go and say, hey, I'm going to complain. He didn't respond to my email like a weird stalker. But I felt like, well, I bought into you, and now you've handed me over to someone else, and you haven't even bothered to respond to my email because you've closed me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a horrible feeling.
Susanna feels rejected.
Yeah, well, I mean, what would you do next with them?
So, well, you know, I'm signed up to them for a year. They've got me, right? In the same way that, do I take this back to relationships? No, but like, I feel like what it has made me aware of, it's kind of exposed that blind spot. And it's something that I don't think we talk about very much in organizations and sales. We don't talk about the aftercare because we're so focused on numbers and contracts that sometimes when they've signed up for that year, that's done for the year. We don't often think about that. And we could say customer service, but everyone talks about customer service, but I think it's about the journey of the relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the importance of that.
So the bigger question is, after the year, what are you going to do?
Well, it depends if my new contact gets in contact with me. And the thing is, this again, people often make the assumption that you're bought in, you're happy, but it just takes another Jonah, his name was Jonah, to come along. Mm-hmm. And I'm so like, oh, next year I'm going to go with you then, so it's,
that's what it is that you're like, okay, well, I'm here now. I'll go with this. And then you talk about it negatively. You tell people about it. You share that story, and retention's not going to be there.
Exactly.
Right. And that's what happens with it. But I'll bring it back to sales training. Like, who's training them in this process?
Yeah. Or I would argue that they're being trained very well, but not in the whole process. They're only being trained. Yeah.
That's what I mean. The whole process, to me, the most important part of the process, the relationship building, the whole process. Right. And I think, also when we get objections, there's a deal that I've got working that I've been really like proud of myself of how I've managed the different, I wouldn't even say objections. It's just the process for them. Like I'm feeling really good that they're going to buy, but it's just delayed because I can't get in front of the ultimate stakeholder. Now, I believe that my coach that I'm working with internally is going to get us to the finish line. But, it's a lot of salespeople would get up and go, okay, I'm out. Let me go process the next person. And but I will continue to nurture this relationship. I've got a relationship right now, and Jeb would probably say walk away, but I've been nurturing a relationship for a year. It could be a huge deal, but I'm nurturing that relationship because they continue to say yes to me to have appointments. And there's a number of issues, which, I know Jeb would tell me or, walk away, but I'm nurturing this relationship. And whenever I reach out to schedule a call, to get us to the next point, they always say yes. They always make a micro commitment. Am I possibly wasting time on them? Maybe, but I genuinely want to work with them. I genuinely want the deal. I genuinely want to be the resource that takes them to the next level. I genuinely want to do that. And I think people can feel that. And this is where we miss the opportunities as salespeople when we don't think of the long game. It cannot all be a short game. And I know I push you a lot on what we call the one call close sometimes, but certain products and services and relationships require a longer game.
Yeah. And more than anything in recruitment, it's so transactional to the point that someone will say no to you. And then 6 months later, that person's making you 12K because you kept in touch with them. But it's almost, don't you think it's something like real relationships is something, maintaining them and nurturing them, it has to be almost seem effortless. And it has to seem somewhat natural. I didn't think, someone said to me the other day, they said, Susanna, can you teach our staff to build relationships with people? And we teach that, right? We teach them the fundamentals. There's books written about it. But there are some people that I believe who will always struggle to build relationships.
That's a really good one to give some consideration and discussion to, because I think that there are some relationships that are never going to work. Well, let's just talk personally. Personally, relationships that just aren't going to work. Now, I can talk this way now because in my relationship with David, my husband,
Gina's getting personal.
We had, I mean, I'm pretty transparent, open book. We had our post-wedding marriage counseling session yesterday before we went out to dinner on our date night. And this was because we wanted to do premarital counseling, just our religious beliefs and whatnot. Right. And so we had agreed to that. Our counselor was our pastor, who also was he married us, and then he did our premarital. And he said, I want to do a post with you because that's really where couples struggle, is like after the wedding. And so he shows up, and David and I were like messing around like kids. We were at a Barnes and Noble, and the guy shows up and he's like, well, I see absolutely nothing has changed. You guys are exactly the same way you've always been. And we're like, what should we be working on? He's like, I don't think there's anything for you guys to work on. But the point of the story is that David and I were so well aligned from day one that everything feels effortless. And I say this because I can't say that I've never felt this way in a relationship with a man or a marriage before. I've had that with many friendships where it just feels effortless because there's an alignment. There is a connection. We're on the same page as people and humans. And so it works really well. So if we take that back to sales, how do you get that same thing in the sales arena? Sometimes you're not going to be aligned. Now, we're in business to be in business. We're in business to make money. So you're not always going to be aligned with the people you do business with, like personally. But if you can be in the mindset of we're aligned when it comes to the language of business and sales and get us all on the same page there, then that relationship should feel effortless.
Yes.
That's just my
and I
opinion.
think a lot about this stuff. And you've just got me thinking about, by the way, your Selling with Humor practice course that I went on this week. Although I couldn't go on all of it, the bits that I did go on have been transformational in many aspects of my life this week and in many senses to what I'm about to say. So I'm a big believer that the people who struggle to build relationships with others are the people who have the barrier. I often talk about Jahara's window. I often talk about the people who have the surface and they don't talk about what's going on underneath the surface.
Yes.
And there are some people who, yes, they build relationships, but it's always quite superficial because they don't talk about what's really pains on. And I've found, and this is thanks to your Selling with Humor course, but also another situation that I'm going to tell you that happened. I found sometimes it can be the things that you're not expecting that can completely take that barrier away. And that can be humor. So I'm going to give you an example of something that happened in a discovery call when someone didn't want to go through the discovery process. And they said, hey, can you get to the chorus and stop boring us? And I had two options. I was either going to say, yes, sorry, yes, and keep on the surface. Instead, I just disrupted the norm. And I said, oh, I'm sorry. Have I offended you? Oh my gosh, now I'm going to go and cry after this call. And they laughed. And it was just that moment of something that could have gone one way. Humor made us all just forget about that awkward barrier of we're behind screens, we're in this professional meeting, we're wearing our suits. And suddenly we were just all laughing. And it was just such a lovely moment that ice was broken.
I loved you sent me a video clip of that, and it was before you did my Selling with Humor practice class.
It was, yeah, and you self-deprecating there.
But I think at one point you said, I'm sorry I haven't entertained you or something like that. And that was a great example. It was disruptive. It wasn't rude or unprofessional. It had humor to it. I thought it was also a great way to wake him up because it was like he didn't have the social awareness in how he was talking to you.
I think it's very interesting, isn't it? I think certainly humor, for example, in this is your thing. I should stop going on about this. Gina knows all about this. Or come and sign up to one of Gina's courses and find out. But I, for example, someone said to me today, I was hoping to close them in the one call, and he was like, "Well, obviously, I'm not going to hand you my card now and pay now." And I said, "Are you not? Sorry, I want your money now." And then I just laughed, and we both had a moment where there's that potential awkward moment. What do? You either go with it and make a joke, or you just do the whole this is going to be awkward. And I must say, there've been a few situations where things can get so formal that sometimes you just go with it and make a joke and overdo it. Everyone laughs. And it's because of your course that I've started seeing things a bit differently. But I also think it's talking to people about, and you're good at this, talking to people about when things have been difficult for you. You're a sales trainer, right? And I'm a sales trainer, but we still talk about things where we basically fucked up. And it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
Did the English girl swear? Yes, she did.
I was like, wow, I was kind of just in disbelief that I heard you say fucked up, but go on.
What would the Queen say? What would the Queen say? So yeah, it's, I think there's that barrier. And I think people who are struggling to build those relationships, they need to think about how can I undercover what we can see on the surface, and how can I really get to the depth of who this person is. And sometimes it happens naturally, and sometimes you have to work for it. You've got to ask the questions, and then we go back to the discovery part.
But yeah, it's interesting because you've brought up the Selling with Humor course a couple times, which at the time of this recording hasn't fully launched yet. Jeb doesn't know, but he'll find out now. That I ran a practice, right? I ran a practice of the course with a couple people that know me and people that have worked with me. You know, I pulled in some of them and ran through the course because I wanted to actually run through the course. And this is so important in the experience that we create for our clients. I'm like, I don't want to run this course until I run this course. And I'm so happy that I did that, because I found like a missing component that was missing from the course, which was so much about the audience. And I was like, how did I forget this part? Right. So that became a big piece of it. I get so much feedback from people on like what they liked, what they didn't like, what exercise didn't really work. So it was super helpful to go through that. And a big piece of that was making myself open and vulnerable to the group and saying, hey, I want to run this. And I want you to give me feedback on where I could be better with this. What are you getting from this? What are you learning from this? And one of my aha from that course, and I'm excited now to launch it officially, is that when we're teaching, okay, let me back up for a second. I don't teach people how to be funny. And I think part of me got stuck when I was creating the course, because Jeb gave me some really great feedback on my course content. And one of the things was that stifled me was he's like, I want you to teach me how to be funny. Right. That was like kind of his feedback. And I got stuck because one of the things we would always say in teaching improv is that we don't teach you how to be funny. Funny happens. And so I had that so stuck and ingrained in my head. Teach me how to be funny. It's sort of like anytime someone, oh, you're in comedy? Tell me a joke, right? It's like they're putting you in that box to do that. The reality with humor is that we all have the ability. we're all wired for humor, because two keys to comedy: repetition and contrast. Repetition and contrast. So repetition is directly connected to relatability. So repetition, I see something that that I have experienced. That's a repetition. That's a relate, right? Which we teach a lot at Sales Gravy is what is the relate? People will laugh at the things that they relate to. And we talked about this in the course. I'm like, you know, why do we laugh at certain things? And it was, well, I'm laughing when someone fails because I'm happy it's not me. Right? We laugh when someone trips.
Do you? That's just mean. We don't do that in the UK. No, but you know that awkward moment. Were you ever that kid? I was the clumsy kid because I'm slightly.
I am the clumsy. I'm still clumsy.
Yeah. Are you dyspraxic? I'm dyspraxic slightly.
What's dyspraxic?
Gosh, you Americans are so behind. Only joking. Just the redheads. But yeah, dyspraxia, it's like dyslexia, but it means that sometimes you do things that are a bit clumsy, right? So, for example,
I'm totally dyspraxic.
Yeah, so I used to fall over a lot when I was a kid. I used to struggle with movement. I used to struggle to dress myself when I was really young. Like, you know, I'm talking like before the other kids, like, and I hate buttons, like little kind of weird things. It's kind of like a very, very slight disability, a bit like dyslexia or something like that. Gina's looking at me now thinking,
I was just having a vision of you like leaving the house naked. I'm sorry.
Stop thinking about me naked. But essentially, it's one of those things actually that I don't want to start talking about myself now, but it's made me work a bit harder. I went to Cambridge University, which is like the Harvard over here, and it's made me work a bit harder.
Okay, bragger. I went to Cambridge University.
Yeah, I got into the back door. But essentially, when that kid carries the tray and they in the lunch queue and they drop it and then everyone stares and they give bright red. I was always that kid. I was the kid who would drop the lunch all over the floor, go bright red, and everyone would laugh. And I think you might have been one of those kids that was laughing, Gina.
No, I'm
a kid. Said you laugh when things happen to people.
No, people laugh. People laugh. Yeah, this is why slapstick comedy is so popular.
Yeah.
People laugh at physicality. You're like, you think about the Three Stooges, one of the, oldest comedies where like people are laughing at these three grown men hitting each other. Like people laugh at those things because somehow they relate to the silliness of it. But
Bridget Jones, the two men fighting.
What was that?
Bridget Jones. Do you not watch Bridget Jones's Diary?
Yes, I can't remember the two men fighting.
Yeah, it's when Colin Firth fights with Pierce Brosnan. It's hilarious. They're like doing this whole like posh man kind of fight thing.
Oh, yeah. People laugh at that.
Yeah.
But people laugh at the things that they relate to. They also laugh at the things that are unexpected, right? That's part of it too. So sometimes the laughing at someone who falls, like you didn't expect it and then all of a sudden it happened and then a laugh, you laugh at it. So there's those two keys to comedy are those two things. And how do we take that and then boil it down in sales? So I think getting back to the point of this was like the relationship, right? Is spending time in the relationship, spending time getting to know somebody. This is a huge, the huge piece in comedy and selling with humor. Here's the spoiler alert. It's the first funny or interesting thing said that it was basically how I would stress this to my students. Pay attention to audience behavior, pay attention to buyer behavior when they have a reaction or a response to something you said or you did. From a comedy perspective, if they laugh or smile or their eyes light up or they pop up, their body posture changes, they're having a response to something you just did, right? And especially if they laughed, you have to like mentally check in and go, okay, that's the first time they laughed. What did I just do? I did something just now that got their attention. And I'm saying this, that you have to ask yourself this because it's happening live and we're not really thinking about it. So in marriage counseling last night, when the counselor said, what did you guys learn about each other during the wedding planning? David's like, she told me put one or two funny vows in our vows because we had like, 7 or 8 vows each. He's like, but all of hers were funny. It was like a comedy show with her. And I'm like, are you like butthurt about this? Like, I didn't do it I'm like, they became improvised. So serious vows turned into actual funny vows.
Yeah.
Because every time the people at the ceremony would react, it would actually fire me up. I'm like, oh, that just made them laugh. So I'm so trained. It's so ingrained into me to pay attention to the reaction and how to work with the reaction.
Yeah, like kids, like Mary, my daughter, they'll do things again if they think they're funny. You learn it from when you're a child, right?
Exactly. Well, that's just it. You're it's innate.
Yeah.
So you think about kids, I'm going to put this out there. Sound like a child. Jeb's favorite phrase. Children they're not thinking about it. They're unfiltered. Nobody's told them not to do these things. And they pay attention to everything in behavior. And then they react and respond to that behavior to get your attention.
Yes. By the way, Sound Like a Child would be I know it's not going to be a course name, but it could be a great book name.
It's actually going to be a micro course.
Nice. I like it.
It is coming to Sales Gravy University.
Fab. Can I just say something as well on this about sales and what you just said, seeing people's reactions? I think also one of the things that I've learned about virtual selling, and I've learned this from Sales Gravy, but I've also learned this from watching myself, because when in life do we get to put a mirror in front of us when we're selling? Well, we do now. And one of the things that I've noticed is when I'm selling virtually, because I used to be so conscious about the eye contact paradox that I would just always look at the camera, that I forgot to see people's reactions. And I went through a stage of, because I didn't say, hey, Gina, just so you know, when I'm looking here, I'm not ignoring you, blah, blah, blah. And making you conscious of it. I started ignoring people. And like, I started ignoring signals. And I only saw this when I was watching back. And I said, wow. And I didn't close as many deals. And I thought, that's exactly it. So virtual selling is so easy to think you're getting more of a connection just by looking at the camera, but look at them and tell them, make them aware of it. It is so important. It sounds obvious, but it's not.
I'm happy you bring this up, right? Yeah. This is what we teach. We teach this with the eye contact paradox. Like, right, how do we develop these relationships virtually, right? I mean, even when you and I finally met in person, it really didn't feel that different, because we spend so much time like this on Zoom that the relationship is there. So in person didn't feel that different, but virtually, everything that we teach, everything that Jeb teaches, right? Making eye contact with the lens is so important. And you have to take your eyes off the lens too, in my opinion. So we teach this. You're going to pre-frame the situation, right? So I always pre-frame it. Even if it's just one-on-one in a sales call, because I've had people say to me, gosh, you are really good. I really feel like you're making eye contact with me where I'm like looking up. You're like looking at me. It's obvious that, you've been trained in this, which is a great compliment. But especially in training, I will say to people, okay, I'm going to make eye contact with you through the lens. I said, but every now and then I'm going to take my eyes off the lens. And then I go like this, and I'll take my eyes off the lens, and I go, and I'm going to look around this really big screen behind the camera like I'm doing right now. And what I'm doing is I'm checking in with each one of you to see your faces. And then all of a sudden everybody starts smiling. I'm like, yeah, Susanna, I see you. What are you eating, Susanna? Right. And I'll start literally addressing each person on what's going on with them and pointing it out. And so I said, so I will from time to time take my eyes off the lens. It doesn't mean I'm distracted. It means I'm actually checking in on you to make sure that you're engaged. I'm checking in on you to make sure, I'm looking, is there a question on your face? And I think this is where I have a really good effective engagement rate with clients that I'm training virtually, because that they're always laughing at me because they know I'm making eye contact with the lens most of the time, but I've gotten really good too peripherally. Like, right, I can see what's going on in my peripheral on the screen, and every now and then I'll glance down at my laptop and I'll look and I'll be like, Joe, what are you eating, Joe? Right, and I will. The fact that I'm paying attention makes them feel like I'm there with them.
Yeah. It is an art, though. You have to practice.
It is an art. You have to balance it and you have to practice it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one thing that people take for granted with virtual selling. And you've got to learn and reflect on it, because if you don't, then you might be coming across differently to how you actually are. And that can sometimes hold people back. So no, I'm not going to say it.
What?
Come on our Sales Gravy virtual selling course now. Are we still actually running that one at the moment?
It is summertime at Sales Gravy, and I don't think virtual selling is on the live docket, but we've got plenty of micro courses that you can take in the virtual selling realm to get your fix on that.
Are you going to ask me?
I was going to ask you. I mean, I don't know if I was going to ask you. I was just going to kind of bring it back to what I think might be the theme of today, which is about developing relationships. We've been using dating as an analogy, but it really does come down to listening and paying attention and nurturing a relationship through the process. And again, another big piece that I think is important is the vulnerability.
Yeah.
Right? You kind of hit on that a little bit too, like being able to come out and say, hey, this is how I've made mistakes with it. I do this with my clients all the time, right? I'll share different stories of like, situations that I'm working on. I don't name clients. I just say, I'm working on a deal that, I'm dealing with many stakeholders and this went wrong. And then, or I'll say, hey, I had a really bad discovery call last week. And how can I learn from that? And it happens. I'm human. Sometimes it just doesn't click with that lead or that prospect, right? Again, there are going to be some scenarios that just feel very connected and you can feel like there's an alignment from a personality standpoint. And then some are very strained and you got to pull information out of them.
And some that you meet straight away and within seconds this is going to go out. The seconds. And the same as a date. But then there's some, like I've said to you before on a discovery course, I don't think I'm quite for them. I don't think I'm quite for them. And they were like, we want Susanna. And it's like, oh, okay. You can't always read it.
No, you can't. So that's another thing that I would teach my performers when I owned my theater. I didn't know this right away in the beginning. I'm a pretty sensitive person. I'm an empath. I can take things the wrong way sometimes, but I can read people pretty well. What I've learned is that you are going to have a small percentage of people who are going to have a poker face and they're not going to show you what they really think. And so they're just kind of stoic during a show or maybe in a sales conversation. And, this would happen in a show and like at intermission, we'd be backstage and the performers would be like, oh my God, did you see that guy in the third row? Like he's not even smiling. He looks so mad about being here. I'm like, yeah, I saw that too. And then at the end of the show, that same guy would come up to us and be like, oh, that was so funny. What a great show. Yeah. And you're like, could you have told your face that during the show? Right. And so what that taught us was we're pretty good at reading an audience.
Yeah.
Do not make the assumption that certain body language is a tell-all because some people, especially introverts, and we've done an episode on that, but especially introverts, they're thinking and processing. And that doesn't mean that they're not into it. They're just thinking and processing. And so don't make the assumption right away. Take some time to figure that out and look at that personality, talk to them some more, and then you could determine, what, I think this is a personality that just holds it in a little bit longer.
Yeah.
That was a big learning for me.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love it. Or if you want a bit of a cheeky little sign up to that, or if you go on a discovery call with Gina, she might pout every now and again. So you might read that wrong too.
I don't pout. You say I have a pouty face. I don't know because I'm paying attention. I'm listening.
I'm
leaning in and listening, and you're okay. So it's just about time to wrap up the show. Do we have a would you rather, or do we have any English words we need to share?
Well, I'm going to make you wait for the English word for the next one because it's a little bit cheeky, and I feel like we've had a bit of cheekiness already in this episode. So we'll leave that on for the next one. But I'm coming up with I think I'm going to start doing an English American type joke. But for the last would you rather's, I've got quite a good one. And as we've been talking about dating, it co-aligns perfectly. We didn't even plan it. Gina Tramarco. Would you rather take care of the Beast from Beauty and the Beast for the rest of your life or have Gaston as your boyfriend? So would you rather take care of the Beast from Beauty and the Beast for the rest of your life or have Gaston as your boyfriend?
Wait a second. Isn't Gaston and the Beast the same?
No, you need to get watching your Disney. Next date night, you guys are watching Beauty and the Beast. No. No. Gaston.
I don't have children. I just now have a 15-year-old stepson.
Gaston's the baddie, right? So think of like, the player, the one who's just like all about himself, narcissist, right? Narcissist.
Oh gosh, the beast. I want the beast. No narcissist.
She's like, I'm not going to say the beast. No. Even for the rest of your life?
Yes.
Yeah, I like the beast. It's something I quite like the beast. He's big and scary and yeah.
Well, the beast isn't really big and scary. He just, at first, you think that, right?
It's true. And he does turn into a prince. But, if he stays the beast, that's okay too. I used to get really sad when he turned into the prince. I was like, I liked him more as a soft beast. But Gaston is...
I think a beast is manageable because I think a beast is wounded and is open to being cared for. And I'm a major caretaker. Like, I love that. But I can't manage the narcissistic. I mean, is that the Gaston character?
Yeah.
That's too draining for me. Like that, I can't. Yeah, I'll take the beast.
And you? I hear you. I think I would probably... I love how you always add a layer of depth to this. I'm just like, yeah. And he's hot. You're like, the beast. I think... do you know what? Gaston is hot. Don't get me wrong. And I have played Belle for 3 weeks in London once upon a time when I was younger. And I loved the beast. He was, hot. But yeah. Gaston's also hot. I didn't go with the beast. Yeah, I go with the beast. The beast.
And the beast turns into a prince.
He does, but not in my story, not in my scenario. So he stays a beast in my scenario forever. But that's okay because I know you think, was Susanna going now? But we as human beings, we may be hot things. We may be like sexy and all these things. But one day we're all just going to be the beast. We're all just going to be our personalities. So then to love the...
Now, that's a whole nother topic for the next show of what... like
try to wrap me up.
Yeah, we used to think about this. We used to talk about this, the previous co-host of the show of, what's sexy, right? Like, what do you consider sexy? That was a question we used to ask. So,
yeah.
So when you think about a beast, the beast can be sexy.
Oh, yeah. Sexy beast.
They're a sexy beast. Yeah. So physical looks are not everything, that.
No, 100%. There we are. The women your mother warned you about, ending with a layer of depth.
It is time for us to wrap up. Thank you for listening to another episode of The Women Your Mother Warned You About, sponsored by Sales Gravy and Sales Gravy University. Hey, go check out salesgravy.university where you can find all kinds of courses to take you to the next level in your sales game. Especially courses by Susanna and myself. And of course, Jeb's newest book, Selling the Price Increase. We've got courses based on that too.
Yeah.
So very hot topic. Go check that out. But we got to wrap it up. For more information about us, go to our website, womenyourmotherwarnedyouabout.com. You can also find us at Sales Gravy University. I'm Gina Tremarco, and I'm out of here.
Bye. I'm Susanna Gray-Jones, and ciao.